I'm Julia Foster, 19, and I've lived my whole life in a house that's more than just walls, it's my mom's legacy. She passed when I was 5, leaving behind a home in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, filled with her warmth. Her garden out back still blooms with roses she planted. My dad and I managed alone, but his smiles faded over the years, replaced by long silences. Then one day, he brought home a new wife. She strutted in like she owned the place. Her perfume sharp, her voice sharper, with 2 kids trailing behind her. They didn't just move in, they took over. My mom's paintings vanished, replaced by their gaudy decor. I was pushed aside, treated like a guest in my own home. But the real shock came months later when she locked eyes with me and said, "Get out of this house." My stomach dropped. This was my house, my mom's gift to me. I wasn't going anywhere. She thought she could bully me out, but she didn't know I held the one secret that could turn her world upside down. What happened next? It's a story of betrayal, a fight for what's mine, and a truth that changed everything. If you're hooked and want to see how I took back my home, smash that subscribe button and hit the bell so you don't miss a second of this drama. One autumn evening, my dad walked in with an awkward smile and a strange woman by his side. She introduced herself right away, her voice smooth and confident. "Hi, I'm Diane Clark. I'm so excited to meet you, Julia." Diane was outside her 50s, dressed in a sharp blazer that screamed real estate agent. She worked selling houses in Lancaster, always talking about deals and properties like they were her best friends. Behind her stood her 2 kids from her previous marriage. The older one, a guy, barely looked up from his phone. "That's Ryan. He's 24. Diane said, gesturing casually. Ryan nodded once his eyes glued to the screen, probably checking some failed startup app he'd been obsessing over. He'd tried launching a tech gadget business last year, but it flopped hard, leaving him jobless and crashing at friends' places until now. Then there was the younger one, a girl with perfect makeup and a phone in hand. "And this is Emma. She's 17, Diane added with a proud grin. Emma gave me a quick once-over, her lips curling into a smirk, before she turned away to scroll through her feed. She was big on social media, posting as an influencer with thousands of followers, all about fashion tips and daily vlogs from Philly suburbs. Dad cleared his throat, looking relieved. "Julia, Diane and I have been seeing each other for a few months. She's moving in with her kids. It'll be good for all of us." I forced a smile, my stomach twisting a bit. Dad was a civil engineer, always out on job sites building bridges around Pennsylvania. He worked long hours, coming home exhausted, so I got why he wanted company. But this felt sudden. "Welcome," I managed, shaking Diane's hand. Her grip was firm, like she was closing a sale. The next day, the moving truck pulled up outside our suburban home in Lancaster. Boxes piled high, and Diane directed everything with the energy of someone staging a model house. Ryan hauled in his stuff without a word, dumping gaming consoles and clothes into the spare room upstairs. He spent most of the afternoon lounging on the couch, tapping away on his laptop about pivot strategies for his business ideas, but I could tell he wasn't really contributing. Emma flitted around, snapping photos of the unpacking for her stories. "This place is so retro," she said loudly, loud enough for me to hear. "Needs a total makeover." I bit my tongue, watching as they claimed spaces that had always felt like mine and Dad's. By evening, the changes started. Diane spotted a painting on the living room wall, one my mom had painted years ago, a simple landscape of the Pennsylvania countryside, with soft greens and blues. It was one of the few things left from her. "Oh, that's sweet, but it doesn't match our style," Diane said, not even asking. She took it down carefully and leaned it against the wall in the hallway. In its place, she hung a shiny crystal vase from some upscale store filled with fake flowers that looked too perfect. "See, much better flow," she told Dad, who just nodded tiredly from his chair. He was scrolling through work emails, barely glancing up. Ryan didn't notice, too busy on a call with a potential investor who never called back. Emma laughed from the kitchen where she was live streaming her new home tour. I overheard her whisper to her followers, "Living with my mom's new hubby's daughter now. She's interesting. Stay tuned for the drama." My cheeks burned. Was that about me? I tried to help unpack carrying boxes to make things easier. "Where do you want this?" I asked Diane, holding a lamp. She waved it off. "Just put it in the garage for now, Julia. We'll sort it later." Ryan passed by without offering a hand, muttering something about a meeting. Emma rolled her eyes when I suggested she help with her own bags. "I'm busy building my brand," she snapped, not looking up from her phone. Dad patted my shoulder once. "It's a big adjustment, kiddo. Give it time." But he was already heading out for another late shift at the site. Over the next few days, more of Mom's touches disappeared. The cozy throw blanket on the couch, knitted by her hands, got folded away in a closet. Diane rolled out a sleek new rug in the entryway, one that clashed with the wooden floors but matched her modern taste. "This house has potential," she kept saying, like she was appraising it for a listing. Ryan took over the den for his office, scattering papers and empty energy drink cans everywhere. He ignored the mess, focused on his next big idea that never seemed to launch. Emma claimed the sunroom for her filming setup, lights and ring stands blocking the view of Mom's garden. She filmed a video there complaining about cramped spaces in a way that felt aimed at me. When I confronted her politely, "Hey, maybe tone it down on the posts," she just shrugged. "It's my life, Julia. Deal with it." Dad came home late each night, grabbing dinner and crashing on the couch. He didn't see the subtle shifts, the way Diane rearranged shelves to fit her photo frames of Ryan and Emma from vacations I wasn't part of. "How's everything?" he'd ask vaguely, and I'd say fine, not wanting to burden him, but inside I felt the walls closing in. This was supposed to be our home, Dad and me against the world after Mom. Now it felt crowded, like strangers had rewritten the rules. I retreated to my room, staring at the ceiling, wondering how long I could pretend this was normal. The isolation hit hard. I was in my own house, but it didn't feel like mine anymore. A few weeks after they moved in, Diane called me into the kitchen and handed me a long list of new rules. She sat at the table, her blazer pristine, sipping coffee like she was hosting a client. "Julia, we need to set some ground rules to make this family work," Diane said, sliding a typed sheet toward me. The list was relentless: cook dinner, nightly vacuum, the living room daily, do everyone's laundry twice a week, scrub the bathrooms, and more. It felt like a contract for a live-in maid. "You're part of this household now," she added, her smile sharp. "Everyone contributes." I gripped the paper, my jaw tight. I'd been running this house since I could reach the stove, back when it was just me and Dad. Contribute? I wanted to snap back, but I nodded, keeping my cool. Stirring trouble now wouldn't help. That evening, I started the chores. I chopped onions for dinner while Diane lounged in the living room, swiping through property listings on her tablet. Ryan was slumped on the couch, snoring through what he called his work hours. His latest startup pitch, a fitness tracker app, had tanked with another investor that morning. He'd given up, leaving empty soda cans and crumpled notes scattered on the coffee table. I vacuumed around him, the noise barely masking my irritation. "Can you move your stuff?" I asked, pointing to the mess. He mumbled, "Later," and turned away, scrolling his phone. I clenched my fists and kept going. Emma was a different story. She turned the dining room into her Instagram reel studio, ring light blazing, filming herself lip-syncing and tossing her hair. She left smoothie cups, yogurt containers, and crumpled napkins on every surface. I spent an hour scrubbing dishes after dinner, only to find her half-eaten snacks dumped on the counter the next morning. "Emma, can you clean up?" I asked, trying to stay calm. She smirked, not looking up from her phone. "Relax, Julia, it's just a little mess. You're already so good at cleaning." Her voice dripped with mockery, like I was some overeager servant. I swallowed hard, the spark of anger growing. The next day, Emma pushed it further. She spilled juice on the kitchen floor, deliberately it seemed, and walked away, leaving it for me to mop. Then my college friend Sarah texted me a link to Emma's latest Instagram reel. I opened it, my stomach sinking. Emma had filmed herself in our dining room reenacting me scrubbing dishes, complete with an exaggerated frown and fake whining voice. "Oh, poor me, always cleaning." The caption read, "When your new housemate's basically a maid." Comments poured in laughing at the maid and speculating about me. My blood boiled. She wasn't just mocking me privately, she was broadcasting it to thousands. I stormed to the dining room where she was setting up another video. "Emma, that's not okay," I said, my voice shaking. "Take it down." She laughed, tossing her hair. "It's just content, Julia. Don't be so sensitive." Her smugness made me want to scream, but I turned away, my hands trembling. I tried talking to Dad one night when he came home early, still in his work jacket, microwaving leftovers. "Dad, this isn't fair," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Diane's got me doing all the chores, cooking, cleaning, laundry, while Ryan and Emma do nothing. And Emma's posting videos making fun of me." He sighed, rubbing his forehead. "Julia, Diane's trying to make this family work. She's adjusting. You need to understand her side." His words stung like a betrayal. Understand her side? This was Mom's house, our house, and I was being treated like hired help. I stared at him, hoping he'd see my hurt, but he grabbed his plate and headed to the couch. "It'll get better," he said, flipping on the TV. The weeks dragged on, each day a grind of chores. I'd drag myself home from classes only to start cooking for 5. Diane would nitpick my meals too salty. Julia watch it next time, while Ryan ate silently, never thanking me. Emma left her makeup-stained clothes everywhere, expecting me to wash them. One afternoon, I found her spilled coffee on the counter, left for me to wipe up. I wasn't just cleaning up after them, I was being erased from my own home. Every dish I scrubbed, every floor I mopped, felt like a piece of me disappearing. I wanted to confront them, to tell them this wasn't their house to rule, but I held back. My anger simmered beneath the surface, locked away. I told myself I'd find a way out of this, because living like a stranger in my own home wasn't an option anymore. 2 months later, Diane stared at me across the dinner table with eyes cold as ice. The room was quiet, the clink of forks against plates the only sound. I'd just served the meal I cooked, roast chicken, one of Diane's approved recipes. She put her fork down, leaned forward, and spoke in a tone that cut through the air. "Julia, we need to talk about your place here," she said, her voice steady but sharp. "Ryan and Emma need their own space to grow. This house is too cramped. It's time for you to move out." My heart stopped. Move out. I set my glass down, hands trembling. "This is my home," I said, my voice rising. "My mom left it to me." Diane's lips curled into a thin smile. "Oh, Julia, don't be dramatic. You're young. You'll manage. But if you fight this, you'll regret it." Her words weren't just a suggestion, they were a threat laced with venom. I glanced at Emma, expecting her to stay out of it. Instead, she giggled, her phone already in hand, tapping away. "This is gonna be good," she muttered loud enough for me to hear. By the time dinner ended, my phone buzzed with a notification. Emma had posted an Instagram story, a blurry shot of me at the table looking stunned, with a caption, "When someone doesn't know their place." Family vibes. Comments rolled in, her followers laughing at my expense. My face burned with humiliation. She wasn't just mocking me. She was turning my life into a spectacle for clout. I wanted to storm over and demand she delete it, but Diane's glare kept me frozen. Ryan didn't even look up from his plate. He shoveled food, nodding vaguely when Diane spoke, like he was just along for the ride. "Mom's right," he said finally, his voice flat. "We need room for my office setup. You know, for my next project." His startup dreams were still dead in the water, but he acted like he owned the place. His indifference stung almost as much as Diane's words. I'd spent months cleaning up after him, and now he was backing her plan to kick me out. I turned to Dad, who'd just walked in, still in his work boots from a week-long job site trip. His face was tired, but I hoped he'd stand up for me. "Dad?" I said, my voice breaking. Diane says I have to leave. This is Mom's house. You can't let her do this. He sighed, dropping his bag by the door. Julia, don't make a scene, he said, rubbing his neck. Diane's just trying to make things work for everyone. Stop causing trouble. His words hit like a slap. Trouble I was fighting for, my home, the one Mom poured her heart into. I searched his eyes for the man who used to carry me on his shoulders, but he wouldn't meet my gaze. He grabbed a beer from the fridge and sat next to Diane, who gave him a small, satisfied nod. My chest tightened. This wasn't just about space, it was about erasing me. I stood up my chair, scraping the floor. I'm not going anywhere, I said, looking straight at Diane. Her smile didn't waver, but her eyes narrowed. We'll see about that, she said softly, her voice dripping with menace. Emma snickered again, already filming another story, her phone angled to catch my reaction. I walked out of the dining room, my heart pounding. Upstairs, I locked my door and sank onto my bed, the weight of betrayal crushing me. Dad hadn't just failed to protect me, he'd chosen Diane's side. Ryan's apathy, Emma's cruelty, Diane's threats. They were all against me. But this house wasn't just walls and floors. It was Mom's roses in the garden, her laughter in the halls. I couldn't let them take it. I stared at the ceiling, my mind racing. Diane thought she could bully me out, but she didn't know me. I wasn't some pushover she could intimidate with a glare. I'd grown up in this house, tied to every corner by memories of Mom. Letting it go wasn't an option. I didn't know how yet, but I'd find a way to fight back. I had to protect what was mine, no matter what it took. Diane's threat echoed in my head. You'll regret it, but I wasn't scared anymore. If anyone was going to regret this, it would be her. I clenched my fists, determination settling in. This was my home, and I'd make sure it stayed that way. 3 weeks later, I got a call from Carol Green, someone I hadn't seen since Mom passed away. Her voice was warm but urgent over the phone. Julia, I'm a bank officer now handling your Mom's old accounts, Carol Green said. I found something important, a will she left. It names you as the sole owner of the house in Lancaster. The house was your mother's separate property before she married your father. My heart raced. A will I'd always known Mom meant for the house to be mine, but Diane's threats had made me doubt. Carol's words were like a lifeline. I'm emailing you the documents, she continued. They're legally binding, notarized when you were a baby. You can use them to protect your rights. Check your inbox and call me if you need help. I thanked her, barely able to speak, and hung up. My hands shook as I opened my laptop. There it was, a scanned copy of Mom's will, her signature clear at the bottom stating the house was mine. Carol had attached a note explaining how to present it to a lawyer or court if needed. For the first time in months, I felt a spark of hope. I printed the will, clutching the pages like a shield. Diane needed to know this wasn't her house to control. That afternoon, I found her in the living room flipping through a real estate catalog. Diane, I said, my voice steady. We need to talk. She raised an eyebrow, setting the catalog down. I held up the will. This is Mom's will. It says I'm the sole owner of this house. You can't make me leave. Her face froze, her usual smug smile gone. She snatched the papers from my hand, scanning them quickly. Where did you get this? She demanded, her voice sharp. It doesn't matter, I said. It's real, and it's legal. Diane's eyes narrowed, but for once she didn't have a quick comeback. She stood up, pacing, then grabbed her phone. Thomas! She shouted, her tone frantic. Get in here. Dad appeared from the kitchen, still in his work clothes, looking confused. What's going on? He asked, glancing between us. Diane thrust the will at him. Your daughter claims this paper gives her the house. Tell her it's nonsense. Dad took the pages, his brow furrowing as he read. The room was silent, the air thick with tension. Finally, he looked up, his voice low. It's real, Diane. I remember when she signed it. It's her will. My chest loosened slightly, he was confirming it. But Diane wasn't done. She laughed a harsh, dismissive sound. "It's just an old piece of paper," she said, waving her hand. "It doesn't mean anything now. Things change." Her denial was desperate, but it didn't shake me. I'd seen the look in her eyes. She knew she was cornered. "Diane, it's not just paper," I said, stepping closer. "It's Mom's wish, and it's legally mine. You can't push me out." She glared at me, her lips pressed tight, but I held her gaze. For the first time, I wasn't backing down. Dad shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my eyes. "Julia, let's not escalate this," he said softly, handing the will back to me. His refusal to stand up for me hurt, but I wasn't surprised anymore. Diane crossed her arms, her face a mask of defiance. "We'll see what a lawyer says," she snapped, storming out of the room. I stood there, the will in my hands, feeling a rush of confidence. This wasn't just about ownership, it was about honoring Mom's legacy, the home she'd built for me. I sat in my room later, rereading Carol's email. Her instructions were clear: contact a lawyer to file the will officially, ensure no one could challenge it. I thought about Mom, how she'd always said this house was my safe place. Diane's threats, Emma's mockery, Ryan's apathy, they couldn't take that away. I wasn't the scared girl who'd stayed silent months ago. I had proof now, a legal weapon to fight back. Diane could deny it all she wanted, but the truth was on my side. I wasn't leaving, and I'd make sure they understood that. The fight wasn't over, but for the first time, I felt like I could win. A few days later, I overheard Diane whispering in the living room at midnight. I'd been restless, unable to sleep. My mind stuck on the will that proved the house was mine. Creeping downstairs for a glass of water, I froze when I heard her voice, low and secretive, coming from the darkened room. "The market's hot right now," Diane said, her phone pressed to her ear. "We can list the house quietly, get a buyer before she even notices." My stomach dropped. She was talking to someone, a colleague from her real estate office, I guessed, planning to sell my house behind my back. "It's just a matter of timing," she continued. "Once it's sold, she's out and we're set." I pressed myself against the wall, heart pounding, straining to hear every word. Then I heard another voice, Dad's. "Are you sure this is the right move?" he asked, his tone hesitant but not firm. Diane's voice softened, persuasive. "Thomas, it's for the family's future. Ryan needs space for his business, Emma for her career. We can't let Julia's stubbornness hold us back." My breath caught. Dad knew, and he wasn't stopping her. I felt a sharp pang of betrayal, like a knife twisting in my chest. He'd seen Mom's will, confirmed it was real, yet here he was, letting Diane plot to take everything away. I couldn't just stand there. I pulled out my phone, hands shaking, and hit record, capturing every damning word. Diane's voice grew sharper. "I've got a buyer lined up. We'll say it's for renovations, keep her in the dark." Dad mumbled something I couldn't catch, but it wasn't a no. I slipped back upstairs, my pulse racing. The recording was clear, time-stamped, undeniable proof of their scheme. I played it back, Diane's words echoing in my ears, each one fueling my anger. Dad's silence hurt worse than her plan. He was supposed to protect me, to honor Mom's wishes, but he'd let Diane manipulate him. I sat on my bed, staring at the phone, the weight of his betrayal sinking in. This wasn't just about the house anymore. It was about family trust and everything I'd lost when Mom died. I couldn't let Diane win. Not like this. The next morning, I called Carol. Her voice was steady, reassuring when I told her what I'd heard. "Julia, that recording is gold," Carol said. "It shows intent to defraud. You need to get a lawyer now, someone who handles property disputes. File the will with the county clerk to lock in your ownership. Don't let Diane move forward." She gave me the name of a local attorney, someone she trusted, and told me to email her the recording for safekeeping. I sent it right away, along with a copy of the will, feeling a surge of determination. Carol's advice was clear: act fast, stay quiet, and build a case before Diane could pull strings. Back in the house, Diane acted like nothing had changed. She breezed through the kitchen, talking loudly about a new listing she was closing, her smile as polished as ever. I watched her, my anger simmering but controlled. She didn't know I'd heard her, didn't know I had proof. Dad avoided me leaving early for a job site and coming back late, his eyes tired but distant. I wanted to confront him to ask why he'd let Diane talk him into this, but I held back. Confronting them now would tip my hand, and I needed every advantage. Instead, I spent the day researching lawyers, making notes, and planning my next steps. The house was more than brick and mortar, it was Mom's legacy, my anchor. Diane thought she could sneak it out from under me, but she'd underestimated me. I lay awake that night, the recording saved securely on my phone and backed up online. Diane's plan was bold, but I wasn't the same girl who'd let her walk all over me months ago. I had the will, the recording, and Carol's guidance. I wasn't just fighting for a house, I was fighting for what was right for Mom, for myself. Diane could scheme all she wanted, but I'd be ready. I'd move before she could, and I'd make sure her plan fell apart. This was my home, and I was done letting her call the shots. After 2 weeks, I placed the will on the dining table in front of Diane and the whole family. The room was tense, everyone gathered after I'd called a meeting. Diane sat with her arms crossed, her usual confident smirk in place. Ryan slouched next to her, scrolling his phone, while Emma fiddled with her earrings, avoiding my gaze. Dad stood by the doorway, his face uneasy. I took a deep breath, my hands steady despite the knot in my stomach. This is Mom's will. The house belonged to my mother before she married my father, I said, tapping the document. It names me as the sole owner of this house. I have proof you plan to sell it behind my back. I held up my phone, playing the recording from that midnight conversation. Diane's voice filled the room, clear and calculating. We can list the house quietly, get a buyer before she notices. Her face paled, her eyes darting to Dad. You need to leave, I said, looking at Diane, Ryan, and Emma. This is my house, and you're not welcome anymore. Diane laughed, a sharp, nervous sound. You can't be serious, she said. That will's ancient, and your little recording proves nothing. Her voice was defiant, but her hands gripped the table edge. I didn't flinch. It's notarized and legally binding, I said. I've already filed it with the county clerk. You can't fight this. Ryan looked up from his phone, his brow furrowed, while Emma's mouth opened, but no words came out. For once they were speechless, their usual arrogance gone. I'd arranged for Carol to come, and right on cue, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Carol Green, her briefcase in hand, looking professional in a blazer. She stepped inside, nodding at me. I'm here to confirm the will's validity, Carol said, addressing everyone. It's been verified by the bank and a lawyer. Julia is the legal owner. Any attempt to sell or transfer the property without her consent is fraud. Diane's jaw tightened, her eyes flashing with anger. This is ridiculous, she snapped. Thomas, say something. Dad shifted his shoulders, slumped. It's true, he said quietly. The will's real. I saw it years ago. His admission was soft, but it hit like a hammer. Diane glared at him, her control slipping. Ryan and Emma exchanged glances, their confidence crumbling. What are we supposed to do now? Ryan muttered, his voice low. Emma clutched her phone, her fingers hovering over the screen, but she didn't dare film this. They started gathering their things, Ryan's laptop, Emma's ring light, moving in silence. I watched them, feeling a mix of relief and exhaustion. This was my home, and I was taking it back. Diane stood, her face a mask of fury. You'll regret this, Julia, she said, her voice low and venomous. I met her gaze, unflinching. No, Diane, you will. She stormed upstairs, barking orders at Ryan and Emma to pack faster. Dad approached me as they left the room, his eyes pleading. Julia, I'm sorry, he said, his voice breaking. I thought I was keeping the peace. I shook my head, my heart heavy but resolute. You chose Diane over me, Dad, I said. You knew about Mom's will, her wishes, and you let her try to take it all. I can't forgive that yet." He looked down, unable to respond, and walked away, his footsteps heavy. I turned to Carol, who gave me a small, proud smile. "You did the right thing," she said, handing me a folder with legal contacts. "You've got this." I nodded, grateful for her support. By the next morning, Diane, Ryan, and Emma were gone. Their car was packed, their belongings stuffed into boxes. Diane didn't look back as she drove off, but Emma glanced at the house, her face unreadable. Ryan just stared at his phone, already detached. They'd have to find a new place, start over, but that wasn't my concern anymore. I walked through the house, touching the walls Mom had painted, the roses she'd planted. It was mine again, free of their chaos. The victory was bittersweet. Dad's betrayal still stung, and I didn't know if we'd ever rebuild what we'd lost. But I'd fought for what was mine, and I'd won. Standing in the quiet living room, I felt Mom's presence, her strength in me. 3 months later, I stood in my small apartment, looking out over Lancaster through the window. The place was modest, tucked near campus, with just enough room for my books and a worn couch I'd found at a thrift store. After the confrontation, staying in Mom's house felt heavy, like every corner held a fight I'd rather forget. I'd chosen to move out, to build a life on my terms. I hadn't spoken to Dad since that day in the dining room. His apology still echoed in my mind, weak and hollow, unable to erase the sting of his betrayal. I'd told him I needed space, maybe forever. Cutting ties hurt, but it was my way of protecting myself. I couldn't trust him anymore, not after he'd let Diane try to take everything Mom left me. Then he moved into a small apartment near his workplace. Carol stepped up in ways I hadn't expected. She offered to manage the house for me, handling it like the professional she was. "You focus on school," she'd said, her voice kind but firm. "I'll take care of the rest." She found a young family to rent the place, a couple with a toddler who loved the rose garden Mom had planted. Their rent checks came monthly, giving me enough to cover my apartment and tuition without scraping by. Every time Carol called with an update, I felt a quiet pride. The house wasn't just a memory anymore. It was a foundation supporting my future while keeping Mom's legacy alive. Word got back to me about Diane and her kids through a mutual friend. Diane had landed in a cramped rental across town, her real estate deals drying up after word spread about her shady plan. Ryan was working part-time at a coffee shop, his startup dreams buried under a stack of unpaid bills. Emma's online presence took a bigger hit. Her followers dropped off when she stopped posting her snarky videos, no longer pulling likes. People don't stick around for someone whose drama feels forced, I guess. Their struggles didn't bring me joy, but they felt like justice. They'd tried to erase me from my own home, and now they were facing the consequences of their choices. Sitting at my desk, I thought about what this year had taught me. Standing up for myself wasn't just about keeping the house. It was about knowing my worth. Mom had always said family was about love and trust, not control or manipulation. Diane and her kids showed me what family wasn't, a power struggle where someone's always left behind. I'd learned to fight for what mattered, to lean on people like Carol, who showed up when it counted. Most importantly, I learned that my strength came from within, not from anyone else's approval. The house was mine, but so was my future, and I was done letting anyone else define it. I walked to the window, watching the leaves turn gold under Lancaster's autumn sky. For the first time in years, I felt free. The weight of Diane's threats, Emma's cruelty, and Dad's silence was gone. I wasn't tied to their chaos or the pain of the past. I was ready for what came next. Classes, new friends, maybe even a trip to see the world Mom always talked about. The house would always be there, a piece of Mom holding me steady. But I didn't need its walls to feel safe anymore. I'd built something stronger myself. To everyone who's followed this story, thank you for sticking with me through every twist and turn. This journey showed me that standing up for what's yours takes courage, but it's worth it. Never let anyone make you feel small or take what's rightfully yours. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What would you have done in my place? Share in the comments, and if you connected with this story, please subscribe to the channel for more. Your support means everything, and I'm grateful for every one of you.